What's the purpose behind the marketing plan? You excite, you educate, experience, and engage. Let's do this, right? Let's do this and let's have fun with it too. To my first-time listeners, thank you for joining the show. I appreciate you being here. Hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome to another edition of Let's Talk Marketing Podcast with NDUB, where I'm your host, Nathan Webster, and I'm excited to chop it up with you today. Today, for episode 234, we're going to talk about the double edge of branding, like that double-edged sword of branding. Ooh-wee. I thought of Blade, so I almost said Blade. Love Blade. I used to love Blade, man. You know, don't get me started. That's a whole nother topic because Marvel, y'all better get Wesley Snipes up in there. Anyways, to my first-time listeners, thank you for joining the show. Thank you for tuning in, and I hope whatever you may learn or hear, let's say here today, you're able to learn and apply it into your business. Doesn't matter if you're an entrepreneur, small business, a startup, or an existing senior leader. Doesn't matter if you got grades or not. Look, it all matters if you can apply the information. If you do, or if you are able to, if you enjoyed it, please hit subscribe. Please leave a review. Please rate it and share it, which is why I want to say thank you to all my worldwide listeners for joining the show with me today. Thank you for all your support. I wouldn't be here without you. So let's get started. Let's talk about this double-edged sword of marketing, and that's branding. That a lot of people say like, oh, it's, you know, we talk about companies as brands. We talking about brandings as companies, but when people say branding, they like it's marketing. Look, y'all, this is what gets so complex about marketing is there's so many ways to go about promoting your company, promoting your nonprofit, promoting your project, promoting your team, whatever type of entity it is, it does have a brand to it. Now, brands are synonymous with many different things, and I'm not going to get caught up in going into that because that's a conversation that you and your marketing expert, consultant, CMO need to have so you can get that dialed in to where it's specific to you. I can tell you what works for this organization, and it could be in the same industry to when I have a conversation with another company, it's not the same. And of course, you know, if you look at the giants like the shoe giants, right? Even though they're all, which I live in Vancouver, Washington, which is a suburb of Portland, Oregon. You know, you have Nike was there first, Adidas now is there, and then recently Under Armour joined there. And there's various reasons, right? But when it comes to the branding of shoes, right? Shoes cost $300, $400. I should say sneakers, not like dress shoes, because dress shoes can cost, up there, right? But for sneakers to cost, I remember when the Jordans first came out and they were $150. My mom was like, I'm not buying you $150 shoes. Like, we can go to Nordstrom's and I can get you these like maybe 75, 85 like Timberlands. And I was rough on my shoes. So, Nordstrom's had a good return policy. Now, Costco, I think Nordstrom still does, which is a whole nother topic of where, their brand is not as strong as it used to be, Nordstrom's, because it's a brick and mortar, which is a whole nother topic of when we talk about retail branding and the brand that is relevant and prevalent when it comes to branding of where consumerism is happening. Man, that's another conversation, which gets back into the double-edged sword of branding. Now, two things I wanted to convey and make sure I convey them more than once, more than twice, more than three times it's two things, okay? Number one, branding does not convert to sales immediately. Which is number two, branding is a long-term way to build your equity. Now, that equity could be a following, it could be a product, it could be just an identity, But, like Apple's brand equity has got them to be over $1 trillion in company, right? For a value. Look at Tesla, the value, the brand equity of Tesla as a brand has got them to over $1 trillion, making Elon Musk the most, the richest man, right, in the world. When we talk about branding now is a must. Branding has now gotten to the point where if you don't have, and this is where, look, I make it very personal. This is my only paraphernalia branding swag merch, if you will. Okay, there's different ways you can say merchandise or swag or paraphernalia. This is my only one for the podcast. Okay, all the other ones is for the company, NDUB and Associates. Not a lot of it is about marketing, but branding doesn't tell the story. Branding does not convince the customer, or I should say the prospect, to become a customer. It only really gives, and here's where we can argue on it back and forth, but it really just gives the customer the reassurance that they made the right choice, because it's an experience that they bought into and they want to continue with that. And so if you guys are watching me on YouTube, you see the sun coming in, it feels good too. Hey, look, this is the Pacific Northwest. We don't get very much sun during this time of year, so I'm trying to keep my windows as I can. So number two is branding is a long-term strategy. So when people say, look, I need to get all this swag and you spend all this money, like, you're not spending money on things that are going to drive profitable sales, okay? The number one thing why companies go out of business is not having a positive cash flow. Branding does not give you positive cash flow, but it does allow you as a business to give reassurance to your customers that you are in the position to win. Long term, right? Which is why banks use pillars, right? To show them that they've been there for a while. Coming back to number one, it's not a sale. Branding is not a sale. You do need to put your branding out there on your social channels, on your website, whatever you put out there. It's a must in order to compete in this day and age, because if you don't have branding, and one of the worst things people don't do in their business, and I'm going to say people, and because I don't feel like they're real business owners, if you have, like, which I do have, my company name at gmail.com. At gmail.com doesn't count. Okay, so this is where I'm going to tell you, like, you're missing the mark, because you're letting down your customers to give them the reassurance that you're going to be here for a while. And look, I get it. It can the the fees can like begin to rack up, but branding is all about you giving that reassurance, which is why it's a double-edged sword. It's not cheap, right? It's not cheap. People ask me, like, Nathan, can I get some BU gear? Like, yeah, you can, but I'm gonna let you know it's not at like a high. We're talking about high inventory rate. Like, I only get like maybe 12 tops, maybe 24. My resellers permit is not about me pushing out this inventory. Is just for me to make sure I promote my own companies versus other folks' companies. So I might have to move over here, and just a quick break. Let me move this down here, because that sun is now coming hard and fast. Okay, I couldn't see nothing. So sorry for that intermission. You see, look, I keep it real the whole way, all the time. So when it comes to branding as a double-edged sword to your company and marketing, you can do a lot of fun things with branding, right? Branding can be so fun because you're about building, creating, developing the experience that the customer is going to enjoy when they make the purchase. And some of them may even experience it before, and you just have that ability to keep them engaged all the way from the beginning to the end, and it's a beautiful thing. But if they're buying a cookie and it's $2.50, that's hopefully they buy a lot of cookies, right? You building this experience, it should be well worth $250, but hopefully you come to the second P of the 4 Ps of marketing, the price, the cost is well covered in that experience. So it's a double-edged sword, and I don't want people to get so caught up in building a company to where now they're a leader, creating all this branding, and it's not getting any sales. Branding is not a sales play. This is about a long-term strategy that you can convert on to where people know, like, and trust you, and you are able to close the deal without busting a sweat. Okay? This is you putting in the work before you need it to actually gave that hardcore pitch and then be sweating, got goosebumps, whatever the case, your palms are sweaty. No, this is you putting in the work pre-pitch, pre-deck, pre-presentation to where you have enough content, assets that are out there to where people can inform themselves. And then when they get on board your gravy train, we're basking in it, okay? We're enjoying it. So the double edge of branding can be tricky to balance if this is something you just started. And I'm not going to lie, this is tricky for even established companies as well, because I'm working with one right now, and they've been in business for so long, but this is where it needs to happen internal as well. The internal branding is not that great. And I don't want to talk too much because I don't want to say what industry and what company they are, but it has messaging. It's external and internal. People should feel good about where they work. They should feel good what they do. They should feel good about supporting this, and they should feel good never ever wanting to leave, right? Or if they have to leave, like Tesla, I mentioned it earlier before. Oh my gosh, they don't make very much money, and they are on short contracts. Last time I checked, but there's always a layoff happening. So whoever decides to go work for those companies, you want them to be at least able to say, I was only there for like 9 months, but it was a blast, right? So the double-edged sword of branding is what you make it to be. And when you accept it for what it is, then it can be something beautiful. But don't miss the fact that it's a double-edged sword that cuts both ways. It is not sales, and it's not a short-term plan. It is something that you can build to be a great tool to close on deals throughout the end of your lifetime of the company. Maybe you sell it, and it will continue to carry on. So don't take that to where it's for granted, it's for naught, it's lost. No. Capitalize on your branding because it does matter. So with that, I wish you nothing but the best because you heard this first on Let's Talk Marketing with NDUB Podcast, where I'm your host, Nathan Webster, and I'm glad you tuned in today. If you haven't already left a review, please do so. If you haven't subscribed, what you waiting on? Let's go. Let's do this. Please share it with folks. I'm glad that you tuned in today, and I wish you nothing but the best. Until next time, dream big and Godspeed. I'm out. Hey, if you're hearing this message, you've listened to the entire episode, and for that, we want to thank you from the bottom of our hearts. And we hope you enjoyed this new episode. And if you did, please leave us a review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Please share this episode with others that may be interested in this topic. And also, feel free to let us know what topics you'd like to see covered in future episodes. Get in touch in the comments or social media networks. See you next week for the next episode.